Hello guys, and welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to talk about how to implement a real-time communication in Laravel Vue.js application. So this application is created with Inertia.js and Laravel. So Inertia.js, Vue.js and Laravel. So why am I saying Inertia.js, Vue.js? Inertia.js is not a front-end framework, but it helps you integrate the front-end frameworks with Laravel without necessarily using API, basically rendering the routes. Okay, you can find more on their website, on their documentation website. But in this video, I want to talk about real-time communication using WebSockets and implementation in a Laravel Vue.js application. And in this, I'm going to use Pusher. I know that there are many implementations in Laravel. For example, we have the open source package that is called laravel-websockets, and we also have Ably, and then you also have Pusher. So these two, Ably and Pusher, they give you they give you some free plan. I think the free plan is 100 and concurrent connections and almost 200,000 messages, I think per month, if I'm not wrong, or per day. I don't know that very well. So why do we need why do we need WebSockets in application? So we need WebSockets in application for real-time communication. So for example, you want to do real-time notifications or changing something in real time. So let's say that you're working on a chat application where messages should not delay; they need to be sent in real time. Then in that case, you need to use WebSockets. So in our case, let me explain to you the scenario in which we will implement the WebSockets. So in our case, you can see that this application has this casino module. There are many implementations, but I'm just going to use the first implementation that I'm going to do in this application. But you know very well that a betting application requires a lot of real-time communication. So for example, live bets, they need to change in real time. But in this case, I'm not going to talk about the betting side of it, but the balance side of it. So you can see that in this application, somebody can play a game, and when they are playing the game, the balance changes. Okay, so when you open the game and start playing, if you win, they add money to your balance, and if you lose, the money is subtracted from your balance. So in that case, what you want to implement is the real-time change. So for the time being, you find out that every time a user maybe wins or loses, the balance is not updated in real time until the application is refreshed, and that is not what we need. So for example, in this case, when you implement the casino API, as I said, when a player is playing the game, so let's say that you are playing this game and we lost, the game server is going to send us the money that the user lost, and then you are going to subtract from the balance. And if we win, it is going to send us the win amount, and we need to add to the user's balance. And as we do that, it will be very good for us to change this balance in real time and not to wait for the user to refresh the balance. So this application is working on the local host, so it may not work. It will not work, but I'm going to show you how it works. So let me just cancel this and get right into it. So in this video, we are going to do a few things. The first thing we are going to do is to register a push account, and then we are going to set up we are going to create an event, and that when that event happens, we are also going to create a listener that's going to listen to that event, so that when that event happens, the listener will trigger that event and broadcast that event. And then when that event is broadcasted, what you are going to do is to catch that event and from the front end side, and then get the event data, which is going to have the balance, and then once you have the balance, you're going to update in real time. So let's get started by going to the Pusher website. Alright, so this is the pusher website. So once you need to register, and then once you have registered, you need to create app. You need to create an application here. So you can just click on create app, and then here it is going to ask you the name of the application. So I just do WebSockets test, and then here you can select the cluster. So I think I'll select the Asian cluster, or it depends on where your users, the place that is close to you, the users of your application. Now let me just select that for the time being as the default. And then, so let's choose the front end and the back end. So the front end, you want to use Vue.js. So just click on Vue.js. And then the back end, you want to use Laravel, but you can also select any, it doesn't matter. Let's select Laravel and click on create app. So once the app has been created, on your dashboard you'll find out that you have the get started, you have the app keys, and the thing that you're going to use most here is the app keys, but the debug console is very important because it will help us debug our application. Now let's see the front end. No, let's just go to the keys first before we look at the front end implementation. So let's just go to the keys. So here in the keys, you're going to get the app ID, the key, the secret, and the cluster. So just create yours. Don't use this one because I'm going to delete this application. So these details, you need to go to your Laravel application and open the .env file. So on the .env file, you'll get this here. So go to the .env file and you're going to get there the pusher ID, the pusher app key, and the pusher app secret. So what you want to do is to replace these credentials with these ones. So you copy the pusher app ID, and finally you copy the cluster, and then you add the cluster here. Now once you've done that, you have already set up the .env file. Now from that, you need to install the pusher PHP package, and also you need to install the pusher.js, and also the Laravel Echo if you like to use Laravel Echo. So that's the instruction how to do that is in Laravel documentation. So if you just search Laravel broadcasting, so you can see here under the pusher channels, that is where you need to install this pusher composer package. So just copy this package, open your terminal and install it. So just run composer require pusher / pusher PHP server, and then it is going to install pusher in your project. Okay, once you've done that, of course we have already done this. So we need to go, there's one thing that we need to change. There is another variable in .env file that is called broadcast driver. You need to set it to pusher. By default it is set to log, but you need to set it to pusher. So let me show you what I mean. So you can see this variable, you need to set it to pusher. Usually it is set to log. That is very important. And then once you're done with that, we need to install Laravel Echo and also pusher.js. So there is so you need to do npm install -dev Laravel Echo and then pusher.js. So here you need to note that you only install Laravel Echo if that is what you need to use, but then you can also use pusher.js. So but let's just install it. So just do npm install -dev Laravel Echo pusher.js. So once Laravel Echo and pusher.js have been installed, you need to go to your application inside the resources folder, and go inside the resources folder and JS. Each Laravel application comes with this by default bootstrap.js. And then inside bootstrap.js, normally you'll find inside this section that has the code that is usually commented out, this place. So what you need to do is to import echo and then import pusher and then set pusher in the window. You can say window.pusher is equals to pusher. This is important so that we can get it from all the files, JavaScript files that that will be using this bootstrap.js. Alright. So here is where we are going to do our setup. So if you are going to use Laravel Echo, this is very important. This is very important if you are using Laravel Echo for the setup. So we will go back to the pusher website and then get started section. So under get started section here, if you click on this drop down, you'll get Laravel Echo. If we want to use Laravel Echo, so you can just click on Laravel Echo and it's going to give you this code here. So you can see the first thing, you import a Laravel Echo and then you initialize Laravel Echo by setting the broadcaster to pusher. So basically this is what you need to do. You just copy this code, and this is basically the code that you see here. Yeah, you can see here. So once you have done this, you need to import this bootstrap.js file in your main JavaScript files. So for example, my application has a desktop version and a front end. So for example, my application has a desktop version and mobile version, and all of them I have different JavaScript files that serves them. So for example, we have the mobile.js and you have the app.js. So if I am to implement it in the desktop version, I'll go to the app.js, and that is the file where I import and instantiate Vue.js. So I'll basically go there and make sure that I've imported that file. You can see I have imported it here, and in that way I'll be having access to pusher across my application, my desktop application here. All right. So in this application, I have created the desktop layout and the mobile layout. So this layout, it's used in all the other components. So that means that if I want the connection to happen and to be persisted in all the components, I need to initialize it inside the layout file. So in that case, I'll go to the main layout. So you can see inside the pages I have the layouts. We have the mobile and desktop. So I'll go to the desktop layout, and then so this is basically your main layout. Your application may not be styled like mine, but basically this is your main layout that you use in other. It could be navigation bar or whatever layout that you use in the whatever component that you use all that in other components. Now here what you need to do is to do the connection when the user is logged in. So immediately we have the user data, we need to do that connection. And where am I doing here? So I'm doing it when that component is mounted. So when the main layout component is mounted, that is when I try to do the connection, and I do that inside the mounted hook. Okay, you can see inside the mounted hook I have here. So if the current user is not null or is not undefined, what I do, I do the connection here. You can see you do echo.channel. So this is the channel name. So there are three types of channels. We have the private channel, the public channel, and the presence channel. So you can just Google and find the meaning of all those. But then you can use private channel in this case because A private channel is for that information that you don't want other people to access. You only want the authenticated user to access. But the reason why I did this, I can basically the balance. I can basically use the user ID, because each user has a unique ID. I can use the user ID to just create a unique channel for each user. So where users, every time they're logged in, they'll be connecting to that channel. So here you need to use the name of the channel. So for example, let's do let's just change it to test channel, and here this is the name of the event. And it is very important, this is very confusing, and I spent a lot of my time, because here I just did the name. I had done just the name of the event. You need to do dot the name of the event. So let's say that event is balance changed. Let's say that the name of the event is balance change, balance underscore change. Now you don't need now you should not do this, because if you do this event will not be recognized on the pusher side. You need to have a prefix of dot balance change. That is very important. Dot and then the name of the event. Right, now after that we can save. And after we have saved, let us try and see. So initially I had implemented this way, and then I found out that when the component loaded, the user data had not been loaded. Okay, so what I did is to put it inside the watch, because I am watching the user data. You can see I'm watching the user data, and every time the data changes, the user data is updated. So I did it inside the watch. All right, so you can change that code and put it inside the watch, or whatever place that will be sure that the data will be available at that time of trying to connect to a channel. So here I'll just change it to test channel, and then here balance change. And then once that is done, what I want to do, once I receive the data, what I'm going to do is to alert. So I'll just do alert, and then basically the E stands for the data that will be sent. So I'll just do alert event. Right, so let me save that, and we need to test it. We should test it on the side of pusher. You should now go to the pusher dashboard, and I think I'll just close this and open the two windows side by side. So I'm going to open this window in a new window, in a tab in a new window, and put them side by side and place them side by side. So click on the debug console. So the debug console helps you to create events. So you can create event here and try to push them to the application that has connected, and see if they are going to receive those events. And actually what we are going to do is to try and refresh this, but then before that I forgot to do one thing. I think it is okay. I thought that I did not change this, but it is okay because it is fetching directly from the .env file. So what I'm going to do is to try and refresh, and if everything goes well, what should happen is that we should see the connection happening right here once this one is loaded. So we'll try and refresh. We'll try and refresh this page and see if it is going to connect here. And right here you can see, right, you can see that the test channel, the name of the event is test channel, and it has subscribed. It has subscribed, right? All right, you can see the test channel, and it has subscribed to that event. So that means that if we send event from here, it should get here. So we just did alert, should alert. So let us test it. So if we will just to click on create event, and the name of the event and the name of the channel is test channel. and then the event is balance underscore change, and then the data I'm just going to pass there balance, and then the user ID, like 1. Yeah, just that. So the user ID 1. So I'll try to send the event and see. I think it's good that I do the inspect so that we can see you can see the balance changing there. So I can just do an inspect. So what we want to do here is to test and see if we are going to receive the data here. And if they are connected, you can see that the test channel are subscribed to this, are subscribed to the channel. So what we want to do is to try and send an event, and once we send an event, we should receive the data here in real time, and it should update this, they should update this balance. So basically that is what we are doing. So 1 2 3, there you go, in real time you see the data has been sent here, and it changed the data, the balance data in real time. So that is how the implementation is supposed to work. But then now we want to integrate. We don't want the events to come from here to be created manually. When the events to be created automatically, and the event is created in this application. I told you that when the user is playing, the game, it is sending the data. The game server is sending the data back to us, the balance data. So if he wins, the balance increases. If he loses, the balance reduces. So the ideal place to place that event should be inside that controller that is updating the user balance, okay? That receives data from the game server and updates the user balance. So, but then before we do that, we need to do two things. We need to create an event and then event listener. So the event is going to be broadcasted by the event listener. So how do you create an event? And it is very simple. You just run php artisan make, and then the name of the event is test event. So this test event, it says the event already exists. So this test event is going to be created, is going to be placed inside the app folder and a folder called events. You can see events, we have an event called test event. All right, and this is the default class. So let's go inside the event that I implemented this. You can see you have the balance change event, and one important thing you need to note, you need to change this to implements should broadcast. This is very important. Balance changed, implements should broadcast. That's very important because we want to broadcast that event every time it happens. Because if you go to the default event, you'll find out that it doesn't do that. So you need to do that. And since there are two things you need to do, you need to call this class, you need to call this event every time it happens. But the broadcasting is going to happen inside the listener. All right. So you need to create a listener using just the same procedure. You need to create a listener. So I created a listener called update balance listener. All right, but let me first go to where I call this event, and I'll take you to the listener. So this controller receives data from the game server. So it receives the data from the game server, and then after receiving the data from the game server, it updates the user balance. All right, you can see all this process. New balance equals to balance minus bet, final balance equals new balance plus win, user update balance, final balance. Once that has happened, I save the data, and then I refresh the user model so that I can get the new balance. And then once I have the new balance, what do? I now trigger that event. You can see this is the place that we trigger that event. So basically this is the place that you like the event to happen. So this is where I trigger the event, and once the event is triggered, you can pass some data inside the event. You can see new balance change, and then I'm passing there the user ID, and I'm also passing there the user balance, because that is now the new balance, okay, the refreshed user balance. And now this will call that event, and what this event does, there is an event listener that is going to broadcast that event. So let's go back to the event class. So inside the event class, you can see you have the public balance and the user ID, and we initialize them inside the construct here. You initialize them here, and now we can access them. Now the name of the event will be let me tell you, the name of the event is the name, the namespace, like the entire name, the namespace of that event, and then plus the name of the event. So in this case, it is going to be app/events/balance change. So this is the name of the event that you need to use. Now you can see that initially we had decoded that event, but now we had coded that event inside the desktop.view. So let's go inside the desktop.view. You can see that we had coded that event here. You can see balance change, but then we need to use the real event name. That means that we need to do that, all right, to use that. But then you can see that this is not very good. Okay, it is not very good. It's a crazy name, and also somebody who can access this code can know and maybe guess how the application is structured. So what we need to do, we have a method on the event, on every event you create, called broadcast as, that helps us to change the name of the event. All right, so you can see here broadcast as, and this is the name of the event so we want this event to be broadcasted as balance.changed. all right, and then once that is done, we also have the data that you may want to broadcast. So you can just do broadcast with, and then you return the data, the balance, and the user ID. All right, and you have the broadcast on here. But then this is not so important, because this event is going to be broadcasted by the listener. So I created a listener, and that listener, if we go inside the listeners, if you go inside the listeners, inside the app directory and listener subdirectory, you'll get update balance listener. So the update balance listener basically calls every time that event happens, it broadcasts that event information. So you can see here, we can event the handle, inside the handle method here, we pass there the event name, and this event is basically going to have the event data. So we can find the user ID. You can do this if you want, because if we find the user there, we can broadcast that event. So you find the user. If the user is there using the ID that has been sent in that event, if we find that user, you can broadcast. If not, we don't. All right, so if there is that user, we broadcast that event to the user.channel. So you can see what we are broadcasting on. It is user. Because you want the channel to have a unique ID, so you need to use the user.the ID of the channel, and that one we should also change. All right, so we are going to change that. Remember this very well. This is the channel name, because we want that the event to be broadcast to the user who is connected and has that ID, which is user. and then the ID of the channel. So this is going to broadcast the data that we pass inside the event, which is the user ID and the balance. And what we are interested in is the balance. But then once you've done that, another important thing you should do is that you should go inside the event service provider, and inside the event service provider here, you need to register that event inside the listeners here. You can see the balance changed, that is the event name, and then the listener. The listener is the update balance. So you need to do this. It's very important. So once that is done, before we go back to the front end and change the name of the event and try the name of the event and the channel and try again, another important thing is very, very important. You need to go to app. You need to go to config directory and then app, and make sure that the event service provider has been commented out. Not commented out. Let me check. Not event service provider. You should make sure that this broadcast service provider is not commented out. Usually it is commented out like this. You need to make sure that it is not commented out. Alright, that is very, very important. Then save that. And then once you have saved this, you should now go back and change. You should now go back to the desktop and change the name of the event. You can see we did what we did. So the name of the channel should be, let me just undo. The name of the channel should be user dots. So make sure that you have this user data. You can see that in Inertia, I am able to share the user data. You can see I'm sending the user data here, and I'm getting the user data every time the user is logged in. I'm getting this data in every component because I've passed it in global component, so I can access it. You can see in props I have the user. So you should make sure that you pass the user to the route. If you are using Inertia.js, it is simple. You need to go to Inertia. You need to go to Inertia middleware, and then you can get the logged in user and pass that user data inside there, and it will be accessed globally. All right. So you need to make sure that you've done that if you are using Inertia. But then if you are using Vue.js, you need to make sure that you have the user data. Every time we are using this user because we have the user data there. So you just don't use the user if you know that you have not passed the user data inside that component. So that is the logged in user, and that is what I'm using. And it is not supposed to be any, it can be any channel. The reason why I'm doing this is that balance is for that user, and when that user is logged in, we have access to that user ID, and it is a unique channel, so they can every time it matches the channel that we set in the backend. So what I'm saying is this: if you go to the event, if you go to the event listener update balance, you can see that we are broadcasting this event in a public channel as user dot, and then the name user dot, and then the ID of that user, and it is the same name that we should use in the front end. All right. So that means that you need to have the same user data. You need to have it here, and that is why you are using the channel name as user dot, and then we get the ID of that user. And then this is the event. So despite the fact that we set event as balance.change, in pusher you need to start with the dot. So make sure that the event name you do as you set in the backend, in the event, in the handle method of the listener, but then you start with dots. Okay, that is very important. And once that is done, that is all you need to do. That is all that is it, that it is here. And then if you've just done that, you should receive. Let me show you. So let me just save that. And then what I want to do, since I am on the local host, I'll not be, when I play, I'll not be receiving the data from the game server. So what I would like to do is to just create a test route where I'm going to use to test. So I'll go to web.php, and here actually I have this. All right, I have this actually. I've already set up that route, test WebSockets, and when I call that, it's going to call this event. So instead of broadcast, I'll just do event, and it's going to call this event and pass there the authenticated user's ID and then the balance that I need to be changed. So let me just save that, and then I'll try to visit that. Route. So let me just copy that and open a new tab, and here right here you can see that immediately I open this tab, you can see that the channel ID, the user ID is 1. You can see the channel is user.1, and he has subscribed to the event. All right, so we can send this event. We can try to send this event and you'll see it changing the balance right there. But then what we want to do is we tested that already. In this case, you want now to send the event from the backend, from the Laravel side. All right, so I'll go to / I want you to watch here very carefully. And then before that, I would just want you to look at the balance. Right here, the balance is 412. And this is the user's current balance. But then when the event changes the balance, you need to automatically change this balance. So I'll go here and trigger that event. And you need to watch here. So I'll just do, so I want you to watch here. So I'll just do here and paste that and hit enter. And just look here, we'll receive the event. And here you can see balance changed event. And when we click here, you can see right away it changed. It changed the data. You can see the event data is the balance 1564 and the user ID is 1, and it changed automatically right away in real time. All right, so this one has hanged, but then it should change in real time. So basically that is it. So if you use that application, it will still work, and you can see it has changed. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and that is how to implement the Laravel WebSockets in your application using Pusher.js, using Pusher. So basically that is how to implement real-time communication in your Laravel, Inertia, and Vue.js application using Pusher. So in case you enjoyed the video and you love the content, you can subscribe to my channel for more videos. And also subscribe and share and like the video. Thank you so much, and see you in the next video.